All right. So we're going to be a little early today, about 15 minutes or so, but still about 8 o'clock, which is par for the course. It should be 8 a.m. in the p.m. instead of the a.m. because I do most of this at night. But biggest thing just happened, not just a couple days now, been basically 2 months in the making, 2 years in the making. Damian Lillard has finally requested a trade, and as a Portland Trailblazer fan, that obviously sucks to happen. For some reason, Razor just sent me an advertisement. That was weird. All right, so Damian Lillard last year played 58 games, basically sat out the second half of the season to help the team get into a solid, I guess, draft pick positioning. The league was so parity stricken that between like 3 and, well, where we fell at 5 and being a play-in tournament team was essentially like 5 games. So they tanked that back half of the season despite Lillard playing all NBA style basketball. He landed on the all NBA third team, averaging 32.2 points, 4.8 boards, 7.3 assists, shooting 46 from the field, 37 from 3, and 91 from the free throw line. The dude is a dynamite stick. He's fucking incredible at basketball. But he's just the newest player to demand a trade in the most recent player-empowered landscape. However, what he differs from with all of these other players that have demanded trades is he only listed one team. So typically players would list multiple, like even Kevin Durant last year before he got traded to the Suns. His quiet demand and his quiet list was the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. 2 teams. He ended up going to the Suns. Lillard only listed the Miami Heat. So what does Portland do? He signed for 4 years, 3 years plus 1 for $225 million altogether. Miami's trade package would roughly include, and any variation of this, but it'd be roughly Tyler Hero, 4 years, $130 million. Duncan Robinson, which is 2 plus 1, so basically 3 years for $58 million, and 2 first-round picks with potentially 2 or 3 first-round pick swaps. That probably won't become anything because Miami's been a good team and they're going to continue to be a good team because they're pretty well run. So those draft picks are going to be really, really back-end first-rounders. Basically a second-round pick unless you can find those diamonds in the rough and you do a really good job scouting. And the swaps are basically just meaningless because more than likely they're going to have a better record regardless. So Lillard inked a 2-year extension on July 9th of 2022. Why is that important? Because it's what created this situation with him being locked in for 4 years, 3 plus 1, right? He took the player option for the second year, which basically extended him from being a 1-year player to a 2-year player, and then added 2 more years, which is 1 plus 1, right? So now he has 4 years altogether if he takes the player option of $60 million, which more than likely he won't if he can get a long-term deal, or he'll take the $60 million and then sign for, you know, whatever his play dictates he's going to be worth at that point. So why is this an issue? Typically, in trade requests and player movement, I'm for it. I believe that players deserve the right to maneuver around. I understand the concept of the player getting the financial security and then asking for movement because that is kind of, you know, what you want. I could blow my ACL if I sign a 1-year deal. Now I don't get paid. What happened to Victor Oladipo? He took the gamble and he lost, right? This is a guy who was on his way to getting paid max money or close to max money, and he wanted to take the risk, take the player option, then he blew his quad and he never got paid. Isaiah Thomas, he never got paid. Got hurt, never got paid. So, like, there are players that can take that risk. Now, Dame, on the other hand, had already created generational wealth. He already had those max contracts. He already had those big paydays. But he took it on the guise that the team was going to create a winner. Very similar to what Kevin Durant did in Brooklyn. Oh, yeah, we can fix this. We got this. We can make this ship. We can right this ship. Put it on the right path. And then what happened in Brooklyn? Everything went to crap immediately. But the thing is, the year prior, it still wasn't looking that good. James Harden just requested out, right? The prior year, before he signed that 4-year max deal. James Harden was leaving. Kyrie Irving was still a lunatic. And then all of the signs were pointing to this roster and situation not really being positive. And he signed the contract anyway. And then 5-6 months later, requested a trade, got his trade, sent to the Phoenix Suns. In Lillard's case, they said they could build a winner. They didn't really make the moves to build a winner. and they haven't done so almost his entire career. And what happened was they, fell flat on their face as an organization again, and he still signed the contract. So at what point is it not the organization's fault, right? Because as a Blazer fan, I could tell you straight up that I did not think that they were building in the right direction. I've been begging them to trade other players since back in 2018 and 2019. When we made the conference finals run, I was like, we got to trade Nurk. We got to trade CJ. This isn't working. But they were fooled with that fool's gold and it being relatively successful in a Western Conference Finals run, which obviously is nothing to sneeze at. It's very hard to do. And they made it there. But then they doubled down and it didn't work. And then they doubled down or tripled down and it didn't work. So you can kind of see the lack of direction. When they traded CJ and then they got rid of all the assets they traded CJ for basically nothing, it kind of showed you that they didn't really know where they were going, rather that they were just cleaning up the books, which a lot of the reports suggested. They signed Norm Powell to a 5-year, $80 million deal, and then almost immediately afterwards traded him away. So you can see the lack of direction. At what point is that partially his own fault, right? And now because of these bad maneuvers, they didn't really have the flexibility to get out of the situation that they were in. And now here we are. Portland's not a free agent destination. They're not one of those major cities, the Chicagos, the New Yorks, the Miamis, the LAs, the Dallases of the world. It's not really a place that people want to go when they have millions of dollars on the table and, nicer areas to be in. So that was kind of the issue. Now, where the issue for trade demands get blurry isn't really the movement. It's inking those long-term deals, which is what I was getting to, and then making the request right afterwards. Kevin Durant now, Kyrie Irving, kind of Bradley Beal with Washington. He's saying that he didn't really demand a trade, but both sides were mutually agreed upon making that trade. And if you were following this channel last year when we started, we did talk about this. We talked about Bradley Beal signing that deal and it kind of being curious. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, he's getting the money, he's getting the bag, happy for him. Got that generational $250 million worth of wealth. And then he requested a trade. So the organization kind of messed up and he got out because they gave him a no trade clause, even though they walked away with a pretty good haul despite the initial reports. And now Dame with Portland. Going back to the thing with players getting those long-term contracts and requesting out immediately, we're going to go to Kevin Durant, who's kind of the torchbearer for this. He asked for the Suns or Miami. Kyrie Irving asked out, but he only had 1 year left on his deal, which is the difference there, the 1 year thing. Maybe a couple months left like James Harden. But he gave a list: the Lakers, Clippers, Knicks, Mavs, or Sixers. Houston Harden with only a couple months left or a year left on his deal because he asked for it at the beginning of the year. Sixers, Nets, Miami. And then in December, when he still wasn't traded, he added Portland, Boston, and Milwaukee. Brooklyn Harden only requested Philly. Now he only requests the Clippers. But is he going to get it? Or are they going to let him play out the season? A lot of these guys, despite being unhappy, still played. Kevin Durant still played in Brooklyn before they traded him. James Harden still played in Houston before they traded him. And Kyrie Irving was still also playing in Brooklyn before they moved on from him as well. Anthony Davis, 1 year left on his deal. Lakers, Clippers, Milwaukee, and the Knicks. What's the difference here between what they did and what Dame is doing? They have a list. They gave multiple teams. It creates a bit of a bidding war for the team that they're leaving to get the most value, right? The only one that didn't provide a list was James Harden, but his list you only have 6 months to trade him. So you either let him walk for nothing at the end of those 6 months. Is he going to give you everything he has? Potentially, yeah, it's on the table, but he's going to leave. You have no choice. And you're going to get back whatever you get back, right? And now that's what I have here. The very next thing. What do these stars go for, right? Because this is the issue that Portland's running into. I don't have an issue trading, as a Blazer fan, I don't have an issue trading him anywhere. Trade him as long as he's going to a contender. So Miami obviously is a contender. We're just in the finals. They could obviously use his services. He would make them an immediate title threat, maybe with the best or second best odds in the league to win a championship with Damian Lillard, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler, that triumvirate alongside Spoelstra, the greatest coach right now. The issue is the package. What are you going to send back to Portland that they want, right? So James Harden seems the NBA is much heavier on player empowerment than other leagues. I 100% agree. And this is the issue. And we're going to get into that right now. The trade package per demand. James Harden to the Sixers landed them 2 first-round picks, one of them unprotected, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and expiring contract leverage. Right, that was what Harden had. I'm leaving in 6 months. What are you going to do? So if I leave for nothing, you can build around Kyrie and Kevin Durant with, your lack of cap space, or you can get back some kind of asset, right? Ben Simmons obviously has become a negative asset. However, at the moment, he just seemed like a disgruntled employee that was coming off of an All-NBA season. So, it was kind of worth the risk. When he got traded to the Nets, so from Houston with only 1 year left on his deal, 3 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps, Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince, Karis LeVert, and Rodion Kuric. So they actually got a pretty good haul. You got basically ostensibly what could be 7 first-round picks because nobody knew what was going to happen in Brooklyn. Jarrett Allen, who is a blue-chip prospect. Taurean Prince, who is a solid rotation player. Karis LeVert, also another blue-chip prospect. And then Rodion Kuric just to make the money match. Kevin Durant to the Suns, right? He got where he wanted to go. But what was the package? You got 4 first-round picks, 1 pick swap. You got Mikal Bridges, a phenomenal blue-chip prospect. And then Cam Johnson, a really, really good rotation player that if it's not going to be proper for your team, can easily be traded somewhere else because his services could be used any and everywhere. Anthony Davis to the Lakers, only 1 year left on his deal. What did they get? Lonzo Ball, fresh draft pick. Josh Hart, fresh first-round draft pick. Brandon Ingram, a player who had massive upside, became an all-star blue-chip prospect. 3 first-round picks and 1 first-round pick swap. Kyrie to Dallas. Nobody even wanted Kyrie Irving at this point in the season. He was just coming off of yet another mental breakdown where he wouldn't play for the team. And what did they get? Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, so 2 really good rotation, and he's coming off of on a expiring contract. They got Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, yeah, and 2 second-round picks with a first-round pick as well. So they got something despite Kyrie Irving having literally no market and being with only 4 to 5 months left on his deal. Kawhi Leonard to Toronto was threatening to sit out the season with his mysterious quad injury, which now we know is basically muscular atrophy. So significantly worse than everybody expected back then. The Spurs got DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and 1 first-round pick. So they got a superstar player, top 15 in the league at the time. Jakob Poeltl, a really good rotation big man at that time, who also was incredibly young and just really talented, high-ceiling player, and a first-round pick for a guy who wasn't even going to play for them that year. Bradley Beal, despite having a no-trade clause. They got back Chris Paul, which became Jordan Poole, a first-round pick and a second-round pick. They got Landry Shamet. They got 4 first-round swaps and 6 second-round picks. Pretty good haul for a player with a no-trade clause. What are superstars going for on the regular trade market? No demands. No demand. Just regular trade market. Rudy Gobert came away with one of the biggest hauls ever. 4 first-round picks, 1 pick swap. Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, which is a phenomenal center, a blue-chip prospect, came in there. And Jared Vanderbilt, which was traded again for more picks. Donovan Mitchell, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen became an all-star. Ochai Agbaji, freshly drafted, 3 first-round picks and 2 swaps. That's the market. That is what superstars are going for. Now let's go back to what Miami offered Portland, right? This is what the holdup is. They offered him Tyler Hero, so a shooting guard on a team that has 3 young guards that they're trying to develop into superstars. One that they already have in Anthony Simons, who is getting paid less than Tyler Hero and is bringing basically the same thing to the table. Duncan Robinson, who can be viewed as a negative asset, player making $58 million over the next 3 years. And I know he was really good in the second half of this playoff run for Miami, but he was borderline unplayable in the first half of it and for the majority of the season, and then last year in the playoffs as well. So you got a boomer bust shooter in Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, who is in, like, not to sound like an asshole, but kind of a redundant player on this roster, and then what would be 2 first-round picks, which we can go over again and again. Miami's always been a really good team. They always find a way to make a solid roster, a competitive roster, but they're not going to be good first-round picks. You're not taking a gamble. You may as well just give me a second-round pick. So if that's the issue, you got to get more picks in here, right? So what are they going to do? They can flip Tyler Hero for other first-round picks, which has been the discussion, get a third team involved, get their picks too. Or, you know, I know Caleb Martin's been, quote-unquote, a sticking point. Throw Caleb Martin in there. He can guarantee you a first-round pick for a competing team. Throw him in there, get that other first-round pick. Now you can send your 2 first-round picks, which are ostensibly second-round picks, and then get maybe 2 or 3 more picks alongside Tyler Hero and Caleb Martin with those 2 contracts and players, and then package that all together to Portland with whatever cap filler you can get. But that's been a bit of an issue. Now, Portland obviously has been trying to work around all of that. But what's making this really ugly isn't that I don't think Portland's afraid to send them to Miami. They just don't want that package. That package isn't ideal for what they're trying to build, right? They already have 3 really good blue chippers for the guard position. I love Scoot Henderson. We can get into that later at the end of this. Shaedon Sharpe obviously is really good, and Anthony Simons, who's basically Tyler Hero. Where the issues start becoming a problem is that the agent has been calling other teams to dissuade them from making a trade, saying essentially, quote unquote, you would be trading for an unhappy player. Dame signed this 4-year contract. He's undermining it 100% by doing that, trying to get leverage to get where he wants to go. The NBA already has this thing where you can travel where you want to travel. You can play for where you want to play for, and it's called free agency. You give that up when you ink the contract. When you sign that contract, you are basically signing a deal. You're signing in, you're paying me this much for my basketball services. If you're not going to provide basketball services, what am I paying you for, right? I locked in guaranteed $225 million, right, on top of the other money we paid prior for you to play the game of basketball. So you got to be alongside that. What kind of package would you personally want? Because losing Dame sucks. So honestly, like you lose a superstar. Anybody who's trading the superstar tends to lose the trade. What makes trading for or trading away from him valuable are those first round picks. Now, what I was just saying was getting 2 is not enough. And I listed out all the other teams that made these superstar trades. They got back 3 or 4 with blue chip prospects that make sense, right? So Tyler Hero could be viewed as a blue chipper, but he doesn't make sense there. They already have 3 guards they're trying to develop. Now you're going to have a 4-guard rotation. There's only 48 minutes to go along. So you have 96 minutes to allocate between 3 players. Now it's going to be 4 players. It's severe overlap in the worst possible way. So you want to get another team involved, maybe get a small forward, maybe get a center, a young center in there. Like if a Jarrett Allen was available, that would be ideal, right? I know a lot of Blazer fans on NBA Twitter have been throwing the name Nick Claxton out there. I love him, but he's not on the trade market. If you can find a way to get him, that'll be awesome. But more than likely, you're not going to get a Nick Claxton. So getting a small forward, a power forward, or a really big wing, or a young up-and-coming center with a lot of potential, that would all make sense. But getting 2 back-end first-round picks, a redundant player in Hero, and then a just wasted salary filler in Duncan Robinson is not a good draft. It's not a package. It's not a trade package. It makes no sense. Especially with, you know, what superstars are traded for. Now, the Blazers have, I think, the leverage in this situation, right? They have Dame locked in for 3 years at minimum. At minimum. 3 full years, because the season hasn't even tipped off yet. They have nothing but time. Now, what does that mean for Miami? Miami is kind of losing their own leverage by not offering the most that they can offer because they've built this roster specifically to trade for Damian Lillard. They've been getting this ready for multiple years now. Them signing Tyler Hero to that big-ass contract was predicated on using him as the salary chunk to trade for Dame's contract. And they've lost players like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus through, you know, free agency to save cap space and the opportunity to get Dame. By doing that, they kind of hamstrung themselves because now if Portland doesn't trade him, you just lost 2 rotation players. You haven't filled those positions. When are you going to offer more to get him? Right? Are you going to put Caleb Martin on the table? Right? I know you have Jovic and you have your new point guard, totally spacing on his name. Really talented kid. He had a dominant summer league showing so far, but they don't want him. He's another guard. We don't need another guard. Jovic makes sense. Really good small forward, 6'10", space the floor. He has things you can't teach. I will take him. but you got to get those other picks involved. The value of getting a first round pick as opposed to taking the player that you chose in your first round is that we get to pick the player. We get to get the guy that we want, not the guy that you wanted and now we're getting rid of. Not that that player wouldn't be talented. I think Jovic is very talented, but getting the first round pick asset instead allows us to get the player that makes the most sense for us as opposed to the filler players. But this is getting kind of ugly overall, solely because Dame and his agent Aaron Goodwin are trying to create leverage that they don't really have, saying we're only going to play for one team. Joe Cronin said if it takes months, it takes months, just now in his press conference a couple hours ago. And what that means is we'll sit him. If we have to, we'll put him on the bench and he'll sit there and we will wait for the best trade package available. If Miami starts faltering midway through the season, they start trying to throw players towards us to get those extra draft assets, then it makes more sense. Joker is a beast. His basketball IQ is ridiculous. Dude, Jokic is incredible. We'll get to that towards the end of this because right now it's about trades and player empowerment going too far. But Jokic is incredible. What he did this postseason was all time, and it's something that I think needs a lot more focus. However, back to this. I don't like undermining contracts because then what is the point of it? It's the same thing with, like, I'm a wrestling fan. Like when CM Punk was like, hey, I'm not going to wrestle because I don't like the direction of my character. It's like, dude, you signed that contract. You very easily could have just wrestled out for 4 months and then left and signed somewhere else. Instead, you took your ball and you went home. You know? If Dame is that unhappy and he's not going to play somewhere else, then what is the point of signing that massive deal? You're still going to get that check religiously if you play somewhere else. I think the only thing that Portland is responsible for or owes anybody is that money that they put on the table for you. 100%. That is every single organization. The same way all you owe them back is you to go to the games and play your ass off and do your absolute best every time you're out there. That's what they pay you for. Obviously, they didn't build a contender around you, and I think that the organization failed Dame in that regard 100%. 100%. But that check was always good. That money was always good. It always showed up in the mail or your direct deposit or whatever it was. And now, you know, they can hold you hostage, essentially. So open up the list. It's not that hard. Add another team or two. Say you'll play for them. And then, you know, go out there and be professional the way you're supposed to. It's your job. Imagine being upset at your job and still wanting to get paid, right? Still wanting that paycheck come in the mail, that financial security, and then just staying home. Would your job be right to not pay you? I think so, right? What they tried to do to Ben Simmons. He ended up walking away with some money because he was faking, or I can't say faking, but was essentially putting out some mental health issues as to why he couldn't play. But the player leverage thing is kind of annoying. Like, you inked that big ass deal, now you got to go out there and play. That's part of it. If you don't want to play for the Blazers, open up the list. Somebody else may get desperate and take the risk to trade for you, and now you're going to be in Milwaukee. What are you going to do? Are you going to add leverage, saying, hey, I'm not going to play? You're going to do the Harden route, put on the fat suit, play out of shape? Are you going to be a locker room cancer? You're going to be that guy? I don't think Dame would be. 100%. I think he's a baller. He's a dub. He wants to play the game. He loves it. Right? So what does that leverage really mean? Is it just a way to dissuade other teams just so you can get to where you want to get to? Because Portland also has a job too. The GM Joe Cronin's job is to get the best available assets. And what Miami's offering is not the best available. It's barely middle of the pack. It would probably be the worst trade package that any team has gotten for a superstar in the last 10 to 15 years. Especially considering the level of contract that Damian Lillard is still on. And I will say a million more times, Portland was failing Dame in every single turn. They didn't pair him with a single all-star, all-NBA, all-defensive, six-man of the year, rookie of the year, literally no player of the month. Not one single version of that award level was given to Dame as a player to play alongside since LaMarcus Aldridge in 2016? Horrible. Ben was a bum with the leverage. It's like, man, you're making millions of dollars. We're depressed every day and still work for chump change. That is a fact. That is a fact. I actually believed in Ben Simmons for a while, and then it just kind of turned around on its head. It was mighty unfortunate the way his career kind of panned out, considering, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Sixer lifer, Sixer fan. earlier today, and we were talking about how Ben Simmons has everything you need to be a superstar in this league. The dude has instincts that you can't teach on offense and on defense. He's a brilliant passer, one of the best defenders the league had. And then he was just mentally weak, just mentally fractured. And it just turned out that that was his Achilles heel, and that apparently is the worst Achilles heel you can have. And I wouldn't be surprised if this last contract that he signed is the final contract of his career, if he doesn't turn it around. But back to what I was saying about Dame, Portland did fail him, but they also didn't force him to sign 2 more years. That was him. He chose to take on, well, actually, it was 3 more years because he took the player option early, the early player option, and then added 2 more years on top of that. So, he could have been out this year and then chose to, play somewhere else after it. And he decided to take on the challenge of staying with Portland, which had no clear direction. Me as a fan watching from the outside can tell you they had no direction. He's on the inside. Obviously, he's made the decision for his family, take the extra cash, but he already had the generational wealth. He was going to get paid regardless. So why not do the LeBron James model? When he went to LA, what did he do? He ain't signed for 4 years immediately. He gave him a 1-and-1. Hey, let's figure this out. Then he signed for 4 years. That is the best way to go about it. And it goes back to, what does Portland really owe Dame? I say just not being sent to a rebuilding team, right? Is it disrespectful to send a player that says, I want to play for a contender, but it's only Miami, to send him to Boston, to Milwaukee, to the Sixers, the Heat, the Thunder? Like any of these contending teams, or could be contending team if they have Dame as a player on their squad, not send him to like Detroit or Washington. Don't send him to NBA purgatory. But there are other places that, can contend for a title, which is what he's looking for. He's looking to play alongside players that can get him a championship. I'm not mad at that. But there are other teams than just one. Help the team help you. Only one I actually feel bad for in a way is Lillard, just because, like you said, he was failed by the organization. However, he made money being the face of the team regardless. Exactly. So both things can be true. The team paid you handsomely to be the face of that organization. They guaranteed you $225 million at the end of your career. You're 33 years old. Well, 32 in 360 days. You turn 33 in a couple of days. So they paid the hell out of you. They gave you they never asked you to take a pay cut. They paid your best friends. They gave them long-term contracts and financial security alongside you to keep you happy. So what do they really owe you? They owe you to send you to a contender. That's it. It doesn't matter which contender. It shouldn't. Apparently, the Warriors were on the table before they traded for Chris Paul. So obviously, you want to go to a team that is capable of winning a championship, right? The Miami Heat were just in the finals. And they were in the finals without 2 of their rotation players in Hero and Oladipo. The Warriors just won a championship the year before this past year. So if the Bucks give a better trade package, maybe they have a couple more first-round picks. They find a way to pony it up. Maybe they trade Drew Holiday, Middleton, a couple of extra pieces, and they get those assets to get Dame to pair him alongside Giannis. Maybe the Sixers do that. I know Tyrese Maxey's on the table. That creates a bit of an issue too, because it's the same guard. What is it called? Quartet. That would be a problem. We'll see. But as time goes on, the team, I believe, continues to get more leverage. Because who's going to buck first? Is Miami going to say, fuck it, we need to do something now? Take Caleb Martin, we'll give you the extra first-round pick. Is Miami going to say, you know what, we got to trade Tyler Hero for more assets because he's been on the trade market for so long that he's actually becoming a negative asset. We have to get rid of him. And now they're off the market. They can't even trade for Dame anymore. And now, now that they can't trade for you, who are you going to try to ask for? Are you going to open that list? You could open it now. Make it easier for everybody, where they can trade you somewhere else, add a couple of extra assets, get a couple of extra first-round picks, a couple of extra young players, do what, the Utah Jazz did with Gobert. But at the end of the day, we're still in the middle of this massive fiasco where only Miami, agents calling other teams saying that don't trade for him, you're going to get an unhappy player, when it should be more open than that. And the team, Joe Cronin, in his most recent media availability, was saying, we will, if it takes months, it takes months. And I agree with that. I've been saying that since this whole saga first started. Obviously not here, but if you follow me on Twitter, it's been happening there. So I saw you put up with Homeboy going for $100 million player to bare minimum. I mean, it's not like he got kicked out of the league to play in the MCA. Yeah, so for sports, I get it more, but he's trying to teach these kids, right? Because the veteran minimum in the NBA right now is like $3 million, which is a lot of money, right? That'll change my life. And I'm over here making, just under six figures, and I'm struggling. This guy's making $3 million to play the game that he loves, sit on the bench and chill and cheer for his teammates, be a locker room voice. But what matters in what he said, this is Andre Drummond, by the way, for those who haven't seen it. Most recently, he had a recorded speech to these kids telling them, yo, be that guy that gets off the bench. You have to be excited to show up to work. You play a game. You play basketball. And you get paid handsomely to do it. Even at the bottom of the barrel, you get paid handsomely to be in the NBA, to be on an NBA roster. But it can go away in an instant. You could lose all of it immediately if you don't truly love what you do. You know what I mean? And I think that's what he's trying to teach these kids. Just because you're good at the game, if you're not showing the extra parts of it, like being excited on the bench, like jumping up and being hyped for your teammates, even if you're not on the court, like what happened to Jordan Poole, right? He was that guy who was kind of being a dick all year, and then he got traded, and now he looks miserable. But I guarantee you, if he was that dude that was like, yo, we gotta keep going, guys. We gotta keep going, get off the bench, clapping every single time, jumping up, Kent Bazemore type stuff, he would probably still be on the Warriors. They would have stomached it. Instead, he got traded and they re-signed Draymond Green, the guy who does do that, the guy who is the locker room guy. And they gave him $100 million over 4 years. Andre Drummond went from making a ton of money, right? He was one of the best rebounders the league's ever seen. Really good. And he's still young. He's only like 29. Andre Drummond's still mad young. He went from busting Jeanette McCurdy's cheeks to now being basically out of the league, right? He's almost out. And I think it was really important for him to say that, because a lot of these kids don't know the extra parts that go into it, right? Like as an adult, I've never been in the league, but I've watched so much of it and dedicated so much time to seeing these players do it, that when I see a player that goes out there despite not playing all year, go out on the court and then just give everything he has, I kind of love it. It's the best. It's like, yo, that guy is awesome. I would love to have that on my team. Player that's on the bench, it's like, yo, let's go, guys. Come on. Hype as shit. Down by 20. Still keeping the energy up. Like the Heat have one. I watched them all playoffs. Hayward Highsmith. Some games he didn't play at all, but he was the first guy off the bench, jumping up, giving high fives. And he, when they did play him, gave him everything he had. Didn't pout, didn't sulk. Like, it's more than just the name that you have. You have to be out there and give it your all. Yes, I agree. Any sport, it can reflect on your work ethic, cohesion for your team and community. It's important. Exactly. And I love your Jerry Curls. Thanks, man. I was thinning. I'm starting to lose some of this, but we're trying. I like that pineapple shirt. So, yo, come on, man. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Dame is going to the Knicks. Surprisingly, I don't think so. The Knicks have actually learned, and they actually have the assets to make that work. I believe so. But it would create the same issue that Dame had in Portland. You're pairing two undersized guards that, despite how talented they are individually, they just don't fit together because they're too undersized. Jalen Brunson is awesome, but CJ McCollum was awesome too, and it didn't work. You would be giving away players like RJ Barrett, who's on a great contract, and a couple of other players, throw him Evan Fournier, whatever, a tradable contract, and a bunch of first-round picks that you traded a fudge ton to get in the first place. So Leon Rose is doing a good job. I don't want to sell him on Dame. It's not worth it. It wouldn't work. Just straight up. They're not the team that could use his services. A team built around a wing player, the Nets, more likely, with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. That makes a little more sense than Nick Claxton. But they would have to get rid of one of them, to make the money work. Can't just be wrapped around Joe Harris. And I think Spencer Dinwiddie. That wouldn't be exactly an ideal trade package. But the Lakers were in the mix for him a couple of years ago. But they don't have the assets anymore. They have the tradable contracts, but they need the first-round picks. That's kind of the issue. Like, the value in trading a superstar isn't to get win-now players. It's not a superstar swap. The only one that can do that, I think, is Boston. And that's only if they get Jaylen Brown to opt into his player option, which I think the window for that is passed at this point. But the Lakers can't do it unless they trade Anthony Davis, which I don't think would make sense because that roster right now makes sense around Anthony Davis and LeBron James, not so much around LeBron James and Damian Lillard. You know, they did a really good job constructing that the last 7 months. They had some dynamite trades, and they even recouped. They had the opportunity to recoup back assets with how they signed their players. Everybody has a really good tradable contract. Rob Pelinka worked some magic. I know he only retained a lot of his players, but he didn't overpay for anybody. As a matter of fact, he underpaid for a lot of them, and everybody has decent, like, 2-year, easily movable contracts in that, like, $15 to $22 million range. If he goes to the Heat, you think the Heat are back in the finals 2024? I do. I think they win the championship in 2024. I think they win the championship if everybody's healthy. And that's kind of been the crux of Miami the last 4 years. Jimmy Butler's always been injury prone. Not really like long-term injuries, but he'll play through, knee tendonitis. And that it flares up his whole career. Part of it maybe because of how hard he works. But those are issues that he's going to have to work on. And then if they get Dame, if everybody's healthy, Dame, Bam, and Jimmy is a winning triumvirate. That is a winning trio. Nimbus, what's up, bro? Glad you can make it. Thanks for swinging by. Trying to talk about this player empowerment going too far. You guys didn't see it in the beginning, but I'm a Portland Trailblazer fan. But it doesn't negate the fact that players asking for trades after signing 4-year contracts is fucking ridiculous. I get getting the money, man. I get it. Get your bag. But at the end of the day, a contract means something. You signed up for your services for pay. If you couldn't see if you wanted to win, you could have gone somewhere else. You could have became a free agent. Thoughts on Dame time trade? Yeah, pretty much. I'm a huge Lillard fan. I love him. I want to see him win. He's not going to win in Portland. I've been saying that for years. Basically since 2019. After 2019, we made the conference finals when Nurk was hurt and they got trounced in 4 games by the Warriors, despite having double-digit leads in 3 of those games. Still lost every single one of them. It's just, it's not in the cards. But it's an issue, man. You can't ask for a trade when you sign a 4-year deal. It's just, it completely undermines the concept of a contract. And I think that going forward, the league is probably going to have to do something. I thought they were going to do something about it in this CBA. The fact that an agent can call other teams and be like, hey, don't trade for him, he's not going to be happy, is kind of bullshit. Because it kind of creates false leverage. NBA needs to set up rules so that players can't stop running the asylum. I agree, man. The new CBA was rushed out, I felt. I think that they did it too quickly. There wasn't enough conversation around the main problem of, making teams or players fight for what they want. Like, it's just, you can get what you want. Yeah, but bro, if they know they aren't going to win and they want to get a ring while they're still young, they should ask for the trade. So, all right. So there's two things that we can talk about here. There's the rookie scale contracts, right? The rookie deals. You get 4 years, and then they can match, as a restricted free agent, they can match any contract that you sign. So now you're stuck there for what could be 4 more years, right? And when they do that, it happens all the time. They get stuck in a place they don't want to be, right? Or you can do what other players have done. Kristaps Porzingis is the most recent example that I can think of. I'm not happy here in New York as a rookie. I don't like how you use me. I don't like how you treated my injury. I want to get out of here. So instead of signing that max contract anywhere, including New York or anywhere else where they could match, he took the qualifying offer, played there for a 5th year, and then was like, now I'm an unrestricted free agent. I can sign anywhere that I want. So he got to go to Dallas. He got paid. He went to Dallas, got paid whatever money he was owed, whatever he thought he wanted. Now at the other side of this, you have the Lillards, the Kevin Durants of the world, where they lock themselves into this long-term contract, and then they ask for a trade. You wanted to play for a winner, right? I could have told you before you signed that deal last year that Portland was not going to win with you. It just wasn't going to happen. They didn't have the assets to trade for winning players. And despite how brilliant you are in this level of the NBA, you're not going to be able to carry a team to a championship by yourself. Those days have long passed. So he signed the deal anyway. At what point is that kind of his own fault, is what I'm saying. And then to demand a trade, I'm not opposed to demanding a trade. If you're not happy where you are, get out of there, right? And demanding a trade when you're locked into a contract is one of the only ways you can do it. Where the problem is removing what the team could possibly get back and then expecting them to just acquiesce to the demand by giving them only one team. Hey, I only want to play for this team. I'm locked in for 4 years. I'm only locked in for 4 years. I know this. But I only want to play there. So send me there or I'm not playing. Like, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. You signed a 4-year contract. I'm not going to trade you somewhere where I'm going to get fucking pennies on the dollar because you want to play there. What I can do for you is send you to a contender, a team that has the opportunity to win a ring. Maybe not the place you want to win the ring at, but I can send you a place that can help you win one as long as I get back the requisite, I guess, trade package that would make my franchise be in the best possible position when you're gone. Is essentially what I'm saying. I would be totally happy if he goes to Miami and wins a championship. It's not Miami. It's what Miami can offer Portland. As a Portland fan, I don't want Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is a redundant player for what we have. We have Scoot Henderson, who is fucking awesome. I loved him in the G League. One of my first videos on YouTube altogether was, I know Victor Wembanyama is going to go number 1. He's been the consensus number 1 pick since that grainy footage from fucking Polynesia came out and he was dunking on, 12-year-olds. When that came out and he's going to be the number 1 pick in 2023, I was like, oh yeah, well, no shit. He's 7'5" and he's destroying these kids. And he has a crazy jump shot. Scoot Henderson is awesome. I was like, he's not some consolation prize. That was literally my first video. And somehow the Blazers got away with him because Michael Jordan is one of the worst general managers of all time. Worst owners and general managers and worst draftees of all time. And he picked Brandon Miller instead. So somehow Portland got him. And now Tyler Hero is a redundant player alongside the triumvirate of Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Anthony Simons, who's basically Tyler Hero. Another reason I stopped watching these children are too spoiled. They are a little spoiled. I will give you that. However, I also get it. Maybe set some rules on contracts so if the team isn't successful to their expectations, they have the freedom to ask for a trade than as being a baby. Dame, I respect. He's been there for a long time. He's been there for 11 years. But, and I'll go back to the list, man. This is what I was doing earlier. Every player that has requested a trade has given a list of teams. All of these guys, man. KD just asked for a trade from the Nets midway through the year. He said the Suns or Miami. The Suns had a really good trade package. Really good trade package. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first-round picks. That's a great deal. Kyrie Irving requested a trade. He said the Lakers, the Clippers, the Knicks, the Mavs, and the Sixers. And nobody even wanted him. And they still got a decent trade package back, even though he was going to be gone in 6 months. Houston Harden, when he was wearing the fat suit, when he was doing nothing but eating burgers and nightclubbing with Lil Baby all day. He asked for the Sixers, the Nets, the Miami, and when that didn't happen up until December, and Houston was like, we're going to hold on to you. I don't care if you leave in free agency. He added Portland, Boston, and Milwaukee. The difference between what they did and what Dame is doing is, yo, here's a list of teams. Send me to one of them. Make them fight against each other to give the best possible trade package to get my services. And when I get there, I'm going to ball as best as I possibly can. So like that's where you start getting into the real dirty part of this trade demand bullshit, to be honest. Like, do what you do. Do what is best for your career. Do what is best for you. 100%. But at what point is it like, damn, dude, this is you're doing too much. He ate too many Whoppers. Whopper. Ah, man, don't do this to me. Got some coffee here. It gets really messy. It gets really, really messy. And then Portland, all due respect, they did kind of draft his replacement. I'm not mad at him for requesting a trade. They did what, they tried to do to Aaron Rodgers, right? Get out of there. But he should have seen the writing on the wall in the first place. The trades that they made prior when they got rid of CJ, they didn't even get assets. They picked up some players and they traded those players immediately. Got rid of them literally on the flip. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a really solid player. We moved him immediately over to Minnesota. They got a couple of picks. The moves that they made weren't moves to help win a championship. The moves that they made were rebuilding moves. And if I could see that as a non-basketball mind, just a fan, there's no fucking way he didn't see that. There's no way. There's a 0% chance. And he signed the contract anyway. Right? I get the financial security of it, but if you really wanted to play for a winner, that was not the decision to do. And then to minimize your trade opportunities by trying to create falsified leverage, if Joe Cronin holds on to him, let's just say Miami doesn't move the needle on their trade package, they can't find a way to move Tyler Hero, and they won't add Caleb Martin to get more first-round picks to make it 4 or 5. They're only going to give you the 2 basically second-round, first-round picks. Fucking number 28, 29, 30 picks that nobody really wants, that a rebuilding team doesn't really want. They do that. Miami holds their cards. Portland holds theirs. And then at what point is Dame like, all right, put the Sixers on there. I'll go to the Sixers. You know, trade me to another. I'll take the Sixers. All right, cool. Sixers offer James Harden 2 first-round picks. We trade James Harden to the Clippers for 3 first-round picks. Now we get 5 first-round picks. That's all we want. You still doing that team school thing, or are you done? You doing these streams for school, or are you doing this for a hobby for fun? I'm doing this more for a hobby for fun. I do love basketball. I still love everything about it. I already graduated school. I actually have my diploma right behind me. Boom. Valedictorian, baby. You know? So, this is a hobby for fun. And hopefully one day, you know, I'll get an audience that'll want to hear me ramble on talking about basketball and stuff like that. But enough with this stuff. Let's go to what we were talking about with Jokic. Jokic is one of the greatest players I've ever seen. And he just went on one of the best playoff runs ever. This is a 2-time MVP. The guy is awesome. He did everything right. And he doesn't even care. He treats basketball like a job. You present yourself well, so keep it. I appreciate it, man. I learned how to talk a lot by being on streams, watching Nimbus do his thing, and picking up the best possible habits. Also, you know, I think I'm relatively cute, so hopefully this takes off and people actually enjoy what I have to say about it. I take handwritten notes while I'm at work, so I know what I'm talking about. I do all the research, and I watch a ton. But back to Jokic. Jokic is awesome. His championship, his finals MVP, his multiple MVPs, they basically thrust him into the top 25 players ever, in my mind at least. And he's still only like 27. Guy's still mad young. Last year, he took a team that was his second best player. Well, Aaron Gordon's awesome, but his third best player was Will Barton. Like, that team was not that good, and he got them to the 6th seed in the West, where everybody's good. Like, the dude is awesome. And then this year, he finally gets his team back. Michael Porter Jr. was great. Aaron Gordon was one of the best role players in the league this year. And Jamal Murray, I know he doesn't get the credit. He's not an all-star, you know, apparently, even though he should be. Jamal Murray is probably like the 3rd or 4th best point guard in the league behind, you know, Steph and Dame. Like, Jamal Murray's there. He's awesome. He's here, and he's here to play. So, and bro, I don't even know how to phrase this. What Jokic did in this postseason run is unprecedented. The dude played against the best big men defenders the league has to offer. 3-time or 2-time? I think 3-time. Rudy Gobert. 3-time defensive player of the year center, Rudy Gobert. One of the best interior lockdown players, 7 foot something with like an 8-foot wingspan, a shot blocking machine. Jokic put his ass on ice. Destroyed him. Cooked him. Barbecue chicken. Done. Next round. I don't even remember who he played in the second round. I don't even remember the Nuggets run. Who was the second round? This is going to kill me. Let's see. This year. Where is it? The Suns. Not really a big man that can play defense, and, you know, DeAndre Ayton, not too good. But cooked him, destroyed him. The only reason why they even lost 2 games is because Devin Booker just couldn't miss. Devin Booker was like, hey, I'm going to shoot 95%. What are you going to do? And those games were still close. They weren't even blowouts. Devin Booker being 15 for 17 from the field, it does not happen. It simply never happens. And he still did it. I had to look it up, man. I was totally spacing because I kept thinking Memphis, but I knew that was the Lakers. Then they played the Lakers. Anthony Davis, one of the best defensive players in the league, was dominating, completely dominating. And killed the Grizzlies. Anthony Davis. Defensively destroying people. Goes to the Golden State. Destroys the Warriors. Kills them. Anthony Davis on a tear. And Jokic just barbecue chicken, ate his ass alive. Then he goes against Bam Adebayo, another dominant defensive big man. And what did he do? End game 5, 12 of 16 from the field. Cooked him. Couldn't miss. And then you can't send help. You send help. He's one of the best passers ever. Right? I still think LeBron's probably the greatest passer of all time. And you got like Magic. But you're not far from Jokic. Jokic is right there. Like, he's incredible. I hope he has a long, healthy career and wins a couple more. Honestly, I wouldn't be upset. I used to doubt him a little bit. I wanted to see him get, deep playoff runs. The last time he had a healthy team, Western Conference Finals. Lost to the eventual champion. Like, and they were young still. Jamal Murray was like 21. Jokic was like, 24? They were playing against prime LeBron James and prime Anthony Davis, and they just happened to get cooked. Like, it's not. And Anthony Davis at the time was shooting. He shot like 47% from 3. Like, that doesn't happen either. That was like the Devin Booker thing. So, Jokic is nasty, man. It's time we put some respect on that man's name. And he did it right. He did everything right. He's quiet. He's humble. He goes out there. He plays his ass off. He got himself in shape. He went from being like a bag of mayonnaise to being a slightly smaller bag of mayonnaise. And you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't get tired. This guy goes out there and he just balls. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do my best. And then the one thing that you can say Jokic is not good at. Yeah, Jokic isn't a good defender. I'll tell you what. Well, the most important thing that Jokic did that whole finals run, and the finals specifically, had nothing to do with his passing or his scoring. The most important thing that he did was he found a way to stop the Miami Heat pick and roll. Whenever they got the switch that they wanted, we got Bam on Murray. All right, cool, yo, pick pocket pass. Jokic, kickball. Nope. Rotate the set, redo it. How long did that take you to do? 12 seconds? All right, cool, now you got 14. Over and over and over again. Kept doing it. Kickball. Oh, okay, you're going to try to get me on the switch or on a quick roll? Kickball. Like, dude, what he did was, it's insane. It's mind-boggling. Like, the fact that he's not a good defender and his best plays in the finals were defensive plays. Being able to break up the switches and the mismatches. You're going to drive in the paint on me? Big-ass arm swipe. The dragon fish blow steals over and over and over again. Like, he's awesome. It's his dedication to expanding his community play. He's ready to share the ball, and he's not always taking the ball hostage. He's one of the best passers in NBA history. And he's still young. How old is Jokic? Nikola Jokic. If he's 28 years old, he just turned 28 in February. Like, he's not just a good passer. He's a willing passer. And I think that's what separates, good from great. Being able to say, like Jason Williams was a really good passer, but he was also very willing. A little too willing sometimes. He would pass out of jump shots all the time. But Jokic, he reads the floor. There was a play that somebody kind of highlighted a little bit because it happened twice in a row. They ran a Nuggets on Miami. I think it was like game 3 or game 4. They ran a certain action, and Aaron Gordon didn't read he can do a backdoor cut. So he stayed where he was on the corner, right, corner 3. And Miami tipped the ball out of bounds, so they had to reset the set. And Jokic yelled at him. He was like, yo, when that happens, flare to the rim. Like, told him straight, like, yo, when this specific set happens, when Bam commits to me and Butler's coming to help, you flare to the rim. And then what he did, very next time they ran the set, same defensive sequence for Miami, he didn't even look. He looked at the ball for Murray, looked at Murray off of the screen. He cut to the, Jokic walked to the free throw line and then did this. Just looked at Murray and did this. Just pointed up, throw the alley-oop. Sure enough, Aaron Gordon did his job, cut to the backdoor basket, got the alley-oop, easy 2 points. It's just, like, those are the things that matter. And Jokic has that down pat, dude. The dude is awesome. He hates being called Mike Malone. Michael Malone is a phenomenal coach. I remember when and this goes back to, apparently he was beefing with LeBron for some reason. LeBron vouched for him when he was on the Kings, when he got fired. He was like, they don't know what they just fired. Michael Malone is a great coach. But I remember when that happened, DeMarcus Cousins was pissed. DeMarcus Cousins was the focal point, obviously, of the Sacramento Kings back in like 2013. And they fired Michael Malone for whatever reason. And DeMarcus Cousins was going bananas. He was like, they fired like the best coach. This guy is awesome. He holds everybody accountable. And he said this like tit for tat. It was like, yo, he holds everybody accountable. Michael Malone is a great coach. And they fired him for whatever reason. And then they hired George Karl, who was in the league for another 2 years before he just eventually quit because it was too much for him. But I've heard consistently that George Karl is kind of a dick to his players if they have too much of a hothead. Guys like Carmelo Anthony, guys like J.R. Smith, guys like DeMarcus Cousins. Why did they think that was going to work? I knew it wasn't going to work, and I was like 21. Like, these guys in the organizations at the top, they really mess up. And Michael Malone joins the Nuggets and immediately turns them into a contender. Like, he's a really good coach. He has good defensive strategies, but they built that team perfectly. You got Jokic in the center. I think they overpaid Michael Porter Jr., especially if his back issues flare up like last year, where he couldn't play all season because of back issues. But Michael Porter Jr. is a really good player, and if he becomes half the player that he could be, he'll be worth twice that salary. Michael Porter Jr. is one of the best prospects in the league, and they got him at the 14th pick. Like, that's crazy. Jamal Murray, I just said, one of the top 5 point guards in the league, and he just came off of an ACL tear. Like, there's so much potential on that Nuggets team. They made the right trades, getting Aaron Gordon on a fire sale from Orlando, who misused him his whole career. I loved Aaron Gordon. I traded for him every single year in 2K. Every year, every new 2K, I made whatever trade I could, package Nurk or whatever, first round pick. Yo, give me Aaron Gordon. And I would get him because he was available, because they didn't know what they had. Aaron Gordon's awesome. George Karl is a man's man. Respect George Karl, but I think he's way too old at this point to coach, especially for that crybaby Cousins. He was not worth it. George Karl is a decent coach, but he doesn't know how to handle extreme personalities, right? He couldn't handle Carmelo Anthony. He still talks shit about Melo to this day. George Karl has a level of immaturity despite the fact that he's exceptionally old and has been my entire life. Like, he's in his 70s now, I think, and he was old back then. Like, he should know better, but he didn't know better. And pairing him with a player like DeMarcus Cousins, not really ideal. You're taking a really emotional player, playing alongside a coach that talks an exceptional amount of shit, and then expect you to fall in line after doing so. It doesn't, it wasn't a good pairing. But, man, can I do this? PC? Does this work? No. All right, well, it was worth a shot. I'm going to try to show you guys Scoot Henderson, because Scoot Henderson is going to be one of my favorite players. I loved him coming out of the league, right? Getting into the league, rather. Let me make this fit properly. There you go. Knicks fan. Melo had his best years under Karl because of discipline. He does bring discipline. We saw what happened after Melo got traded. Yeah, when Melo was given too much free reign, which is why, Mike D'Antoni's not exactly a good coach. He tends to go off the rails a little bit. Unhinged Melo is, obviously, I think I would consider him a valuable asset. I think so, at least. Can I... There you go. All right, cool. So, Scoot Henderson, dude's awesome. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch him play, he knows what he's doing, man. He has an it factor that you just can't teach. Let me remove this and this. Scoot, kid is incredible, man. If you haven't gotten the chance to watch him play, highly recommended. The dude he's a baller, man. He's a straight up baller. Like, gets to the basket, good two-hand passer, solid mid-range game. Not exactly a good three-point shooter, but he tries. Lazy Rican, yeah, that's my Twitch handle. That is the Twitch handle. Knick fans and Melo fans are too obsessed. I'm not a Melo fan, but I will say Melo is he's an all-time great. Sad he got, retired without a ring. He deserved it. But Scoot is going to be the man. I know Bill Simmons is big on him. Like I said, one of my first videos on all of YouTube was about Scoot. Kind of shitty that we drafted Dame's replacement while Dame was still here. But you don't miss on that opportunity. I think if we got Brandon Miller, we would have traded him. if Charlotte made the right decision and they picked up Scoot instead of Brandon, we trade Brandon Miller immediately. But we landed Scoot, and this is another thing too. Like this is just as a fan of basketball. Do I still doing Twitch? Assuming that's for gaming. I stopped for a while. I just felt like it was too much of a job. I work full time. I work 45 hours a week and sometimes Saturdays. I get home at like 7, and then I gotta wake up at 6:30, so I only have like an hour and a half to chill. Maybe a game with I can't play with my brother. Everybody's too busy. I could do 2K on this channel, like do some simulations and stuff, make some trades, see if I can make my Blazers a championship team. I wouldn't mind it. I'm probably gonna get the new 2K2 when it comes out, so we'll get into that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. However, I will say let me drag this over. There you go. And open this. There you go. The Blazers never really had a rebuild, right? The last rebuild we had was 2006 when we went from Martell Webster and Zach Randolph, and then in 06 we trade Tyrese Thomas for LaMarcus Aldridge, and we draft Brandon Roy. I think we traded Randy Foye for Brandon Roy. That was the last rebuild that we had. And then after that, we get Greg Oden, and then we all know how that went. We went 55 games, and then Brandon Roy's knees gave out, and Greg Oden never played because of his injuries as well. So we went from a really shitty team to a 55 win, holy shit, this team is going to be incredible, to, oh my God, this team is actually tragic because of all the injuries. And then Aldridge stays great. We win a couple of, games. We make the playoffs every year. And then we trade Gerald Wallace for the number 6 pick from the New Jersey Nets as they're doing this massive rebuild where they totally shit the bed, trading everything that they had for Darren Williams, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Gerald Wallace. And we happen to get lucky and get that number 6 overall pick, which we get Damian Lillard with. And then we're immediately competitive again. We make the playoffs for 8 years straight. Like, we never had a rebuild. The rebuild's so important, and the worst place you can be is in the middle. So we end up using all these weird assets that we get somewhere in the middle of the draft, like CJ McCollum, and we overpay them because free agents don't want to come to Portland. They always want to go to one of those five major cities, and we never had the opportunity to draft players to keep them there for that 8-year stretch, right? Because you get the 4 years on the rookie deal. If they take the extension, they get there for 4 more years with a +1 player option. So you get them for that 8-year stretch. We never had those players besides CJ. And then everybody else was kind of like, hey, who can we bring here? That net team killed themselves, literally. They kept doing it to themselves too, which is hilarious. Bro, I don't know what they were trying to do, but I do know that it was Bobby Marks who did that, right? He was the GM for that Brooklyn Nets team that was just built horribly. That was built around being a bad general manager. And you know what he does now on TV? He tells teams how to be general managers, which is the most bizarre thing in the world to me because he should be universally regarded as the worst GM in NBA history. This is a guy that traded the complete longevity of a franchise and overpaid guys who were 34, 35, and 36 years old to lead them to a championship, which was never going to happen because they were old. They weren't even good in Boston there last year. And now you're trading for these guys here. It was atrocious. And then Sean Marks takes over and then completely saves the franchise, like from obscurity. There's a reason why Bobby Marks wasn't there anymore. And it's incredible to me that he actually has a job as the GM guy. Can make the bets at this point. Make the bets. Make the Nets. Oh, okay. I think you mean make the Nets. I would not be surprised. I think that we could make the Nets. Like they haven't done a good job. They've tried to land these superstars and it just never panned out. And it's not surprising either. Like, I think it doesn't take a miracle to know that Kyrie Irving is not a player you want to base your franchise around. Obviously, Kevin Durant, and that's why I'll give the Knicks their credit. The Knicks deserve their credit because old Knicks, they would have done everything they could to get Kyrie Irving. They would have done everything they could. Oh, shit. A superstar wants out. Take him. Give him everything we got. And they would still be stuck with him. Thankfully, Leon Rose has done a really good job to not do that. I'm getting in good shape so we can do that. Let's do it. I'm not in good shape anymore. So, you know, I'm flaco, but I'm also old. My knees can't hold up to the pressure. But I'm gonna let you guys go. This was a solid hour-long live. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Much appreciated. I appreciate the love everybody showed today. And I will catch you all next time. Make your older brother the cook so we can eat good and avoid the Whoppers. I mean, that new Texas Whopper's pretty fire, man. It's killer. But thank you once again, everyone. I hope you have a great night, and I'll see you next time.